I haven't made one of these kinds of videos in quite a while, so figured it was time, and that's a comment response video. Yes, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. But before we get started, like this video, hit the subscribe button, and consider joining the channel. Channel members get exclusive access to Filmmaker Alchemy, behind-the-scenes lessons and insights on the business of video production. Learn how to turn your content into gold. I've got my most recent comments pulled up here, so let's dive right in. Someone says, "Thank you. I've had the A10 Mini sitting in a drawer for quite some time collecting dust, and I had no idea I could use it this way. This is going to be a huge time saver for me." That is awesome. I will, oh gosh, there's a whole question buried here under the read more. I just have one question. Do you have any method for processing the image recorded from cameras this way? Because the ATEM software doesn't allow for image processing for individual cameras unless you have Blackmagic cameras. Do you use Blackmagic cameras, or do you have another way to process the image separately for camera 1 and camera 2? Or do you edit the footage as a whole for both cameras at once? I'll give this a heart. I usually give everything a heart, but basically this is the ATEM Mini. If you use an app called Mix Effect, and yes, you do have to pay for it, but it's not a subscription. This is a one-time thing. It's independently developed. You can reach out to the developer directly. I forget his name, but Mix Effect is the app you're looking for, and you combine it with the ATEM Mini, and you can get automatic switching. That's how I've got this studio space set up. So for any different microphone with multiple cameras, the moment one mic's talking, it switches to that camera. Another mic talks, it switches to that camera automatically based on sound levels. You can do this in post-production with Premiere, with Resolve. There's lots of plugins nowadays that'll detect, volume, decibels, where it'll automatically switch between cameras. But the ATEM Mini can do it live, so you could run a live show right from the board, or you just save yourself the step of editing because it's already done by the time the show's done. And if you get the ATEM Mini, yes, you get just the final built-in export, the cut between all the cameras. If you got 4 cameras, eight cameras, whatever it is. But if you get the ISO boards, the ATEM Mini ISO, that'll give you each individual camera recorded separately in addition to the DaVinci Resolve project file, which gives you the full switch. So you can go back in and you can edit to your heart's delight. There's plenty of people asking comments like, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I? Yes, you can if you want to take those steps. I made the video as a proof of concept, as a path of least resistance, the easiest, most effortless. You can get the live switch without a producer. You don't need to edit. You can do that. But if you get the right board and you go through the right steps and you want to take the time doing the post-production, you can color correct, you can tweak, you can do anything you would want, but you need the ISO board and you need to spend the time doing it, which a lot of people don't want. They want the shortcut, which is why I made the video. Someone says 100% right about the branding. This is talking about the Lumix S1R2. We'll see. That's soon to be announced. Hopefully, fingers crossed that it's actually worthwhile. Dude, loving this super honest real world point of view. Thank you. I really like to express my opinions in the current state, in the modern media landscape when it comes to content creation, filmmaking, cinematography, photography. Yes, everyone knows the traditional Hollywood, TV, film school routes. My channel has been around for quite a while. You can go back in the archives. Yes, we all understand client services and what you need to do when you're doing video production for a client. But really, I still feel like there's this misconception around production that it has to be in these old school legacy models. You have to have the bigger cameras that are more expensive and they're heavier and they're more difficult. Like, you need to make your life more difficult to be successful. And I just think that's incorrect. You can actually achieve everything you want, and it's actually easier, it's quicker, it's more convenient, it's less expensive. And nowadays, clients don't care as much. Yes, they used to care back in the day. And this is probably a whole nother video that I'll get into. But yes, you do still need to put on the show from time to time, have the big production, have all the people. But nowadays that's getting less and less important as clients are asking, can you shoot this on your phone? Can you just make a TikTok? Can you make something simple and authentic and genuine and like an influencer would? If you come at that with a Red Komodo and Ari Alexa, like whatever you're coming at it with could be the wrong choice if you're trying to think old school, Hollywood film school style. That's where we all came from, but I'm trying to communicate in a way that makes what used to be seen as the low effort, cheap, oh, that's lesser. Well, actually, those cameras, those hybrids that everyone thought were the budget alternative are now my preferred tool. I think they're better than the high-end expensive cinema cameras or the super expensive photography cameras that don't do good video. There's such value in these hybrids nowadays that applies to so many circumstances that it's very different than it used to be 5, 10, 15 years ago. If you want to go back in the channel, you can watch my old stuff from forever ago, but I'm trying to keep stuff modern and fresh because that's how I currently work. That's how I know a lot of you guys are working. And it just seems like there's still this mystique or this illusion of like going to be a filmmaker, going to be a cinematographer, and it coming with all this baggage and weight. And I want people to just kind of shed that and do their own thing and be successful, with the smaller, cheaper, more affordable, more useful tools. Because that's what it's all about. For me, it's the usability, the practicality, the functionality. What features does it have? Can I actually get more out of it, even though it's a lesser camera, which is still, to this day, something I have to constantly debunk. Meh. Someone says, meh, I don't trust Blackmagic at the moment. Since the sale of the 6K full frame, they have not released a proper firmware update on it. The beta caused a lot of issues and broke card reader. Does the price drop signal a new Pro Pixis model? Good luck getting a firmware update and anything other than the engineers will see response from Blackmagic when asked. That's unfortunate. This was not something that was on my radar. Blackmagic has kind of slipped off my radar for a while. I mean, I was and still am a huge fan of the Ursa Mini, but that's kind of old now. Plenty of newer cameras that they've released over the years that have been more budget conscious, more user-friendly, price-friendly. But it seems like from this person's perspective, they're not really hitting the home runs like they once did, which is unfortunate. And I think kind of one of my problems with the Pixis, I think it's a good tool, but it kind of replaces something that doesn't need to be replaced. If it's a film camera for filmmakers for on set, those people already have the expensive ones. They're willing to pay it. They, in fact, like that those cameras are so expensive. So a budget version of that, I think, is a very, very small consumer base that wants to shoot with an Alexa but can't afford it, wants to have a Red whatever but can't afford it, so they get the cheaper box camera. Yes, those people exist. If you're one of them, more power to you. You can go get a Pixis and shoot on it all you want. I just think there's a lot more people who want the hybrid style for that price point in particular. This person says, I bought one last week and returned it. Then yesterday I found a Sena 12K body in stock. I was, however, really impressed with the Pixis. And I think they go on to say that they return it because of the discount, which is over now by the time you're watching this. So unfortunately you missed it, but I'm sure it'll go on sale again. I don't think they're selling a lot of the Pixis models. Maybe a Pro version will come, but I kind of doubt it. I feel like it's a little too soon. That'll really undercut what they've done with the Pixis. So probably just trying to sell more of them, discount it, give a little sale. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's someone says it's because Panasonic is about to drop a new camera with the same L mount, with way better rolling shutter and frame rate options. So that is one of the other downsides to the Pixis. It's the same sensor that's in a lot of these full frame L mount cameras, and the rolling shutter isn't great. It's never really been a problem for me shooting with the S5 Mark II or the Lumix S9. Both cameras I really like. But if you need that fast action, like quicker rolling shutter, then obviously those aren't the cameras for you. Someone says that's $900 less in Canada. Oh, no shipping to Canada and no dealer here will price match B&H. That's unfortunate. Guys, I got mine for $2,760 Singapore dollar. Original is $4,000. Not sure why the sudden drop in price, but I quickly bought it. Good for you. Not a price drop, only offered by B&H. Not true. Adorama also has the same discount until the 20th. Also, it's a cinema camera, not a mirrorless camera that every random videographer can shoot with because it takes work. And also, how in the world is B-RAW an issue? What are you talking about? These are the comments that I wondered, did the person even watch the video because I explain what my issue is with B-RAW? I actually say B-RAW is great, B-RAW is good. However, there's the 1% chance that you'll run into like errors or problems depending on your machine, depending on your operating system. I said all this in the video, so I'm not going to go into it further here, but I do wonder if you watched enough to know the video that I sort of critique B-RAW and why it might not be the good choice for everyone. I still say it's good, might not be a good choice for everyone. So if you saw that part of the video, how did you miss all the other context around it? I just wonder, were you not listening? I usually try and address points in full. My videos are long, they're not short, so I try and take the time to flesh them out, but then people will respond with these comments where I say, the context is there. The question you're asking is answered in the video. Ask me a better question. Oh, someone says, oh my gosh, I wish I can get it because it's cheaper. It's on sale. Here's another one. Someone says, bit of an awkward take to have for what is essentially just a sale. Of course, the form factor for the Pixis isn't as run and gun or pick up and go like the Lumix or hybrid Sony Canon bodies, because that's what the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K is for. So a sale is meant to sell the product. That's why they run sales, to sell more of them. So if you're not selling enough, you usually put it on sale to drive enthusiasm, to drive, buyers. Because again, you want these products out in the wild, because the more people who are using them, you can spread word of mouth. Other people can see it. It's out there. It's available. The messaging spreads just through sales. If you're not selling enough of something, you usually put it on sale. So that's what I explained in this video. And I don't know why this person says it's an awkward take because it's just a sale. Well, all that's explained in the video. Anyways, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera, yes, has more of the photography hybrid style, but it's still a football. It doesn't look great. It doesn't hold well in the hand. It's really wide and kind of oblong, and that's why I call it. It's like a football. It's not comfortable to hold like any other photography camera from Nikon, Canon, Lumix, Sony, etc. I don't know why Blackmagic decided to make a pocket cinema camera. Why even put pocket in the name? It doesn't go in your pocket. It's way too big for that. None of these cameras are pocketable. The only thing that can go in your pocket is your phone, and they're not going to. The moment you put a lens on it, even if it was the size of your phone, the moment there's a lens on it, it's not in your pocket. So take pocket out of the name. If you want to call it the hybrid, the photography, the whatever, that's fine. But also make it look like something you would want to hold, not an awkwardly wide contraption. It's not pocketable, and it's not comfortable for photography either. So also, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. They go on. I wouldn't want to get the Pixis with the intention of also taking photos or for tasks that require autofocus, for the same reason why I wouldn't go a Red or an Airy for taking photos or autofocus. They are not the right tool for that kind of job. And that is my point, is that these jobs nowadays require video and photo. The hybrid, I don't know how to explain this other than the tool, because hybrids have become so powerful and so popular, the projects now demand both functions. So if you're going to stick your head in the sand and put a blindfold on and say, la, 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 I can't hear you. Yes, you can go work in Hollywood. You can go work on a TV show. You can work in this very small, tiny little bubble pocket of we just make cinema. But for most projects, you're going to need to take a photo. And the moment you have to bring a second body, that's more batteries, more memory cards, more monitors, more everything. Maybe not a monitor if you're taking photos, to be fair. It's just extra weight. It's extra expense. It's extra everything for no point other than I bought a cinema camera and I bought a photography camera. The point of the hybrid is that I can do both. And I explained this in the video, that the hybrids are so good. Yes, we used to have to sacrifice. We used to have to only shoot 1080p when the cinema cameras were doing 4K. But now the hybrids are doing 8K. We used to have to, everything autofocus was terrible back in the day. So everyone was doing manual focus. But all of a sudden, autofocus in video got just as good as it is for photography. So people started using it for video, for gimbals, etc. Like, why autofocus is so popular. Same thing with the sensor size. The cinema cameras used to have the bigger sensors. Well, now everything has a big full frame sensor. There's so much that has been paralleled or mirrored. And so to say like the cinema camera is still just better because it's a cinema camera. If you're in a very specific situation where you have an AC who needs to operate on the other side of the camera, and so you need the buttons there, I gladly accept your argument. But for most people, for most content, if you're just shooting by yourself, there's very little reason to invest in an exclusive cinema camera other than you like the aesthetic, you like the look and feel, it's your preference, that's fine. But it's no wonder that Sony has dominated with things like the FX3, the FX30, the FX6, because they're just more useful all-around tools that can get the job done. I would argue the FX3 is more valuable than an FX. An FX3 is more valuable than FX6 just because of that photography capability. Now, if you want the internal NDs on the FX6, that's fine too. The fair argument, I'll take it. But there's no point in saying you need a cinema camera to do cinema. You can do it with a hybrid, I promise you, and you can do so much more. So I'll stop there and I'll continue on. I'd get the Pixis Or red or airy for traditional filmmaking workflow where I have more control in my environment, use manual focus lenses, and have the time to build it out for whatever the scene requires. Everything you just described is slow. And that just doesn't keep up in 2025. I'm sorry, it doesn't. If you're going to take longer and you're going to work slower, again, that might be fine for the bubble of Hollywood, but it is not fine for modern content creation when influencers, content creators are getting millions of views shooting on their smartphone. And if you show up with your cinema camera saying, oh, hold on, let me just take a minute, let me take 30, let me whatever to build out my scene, they're going to look at you like, just shoot it on your phone. Just let's move on. Let's move on to the next thing. We have a lot to get done today. To keep up with the growing needs of content, to compete with things like AI and how quick and easy it is just to snap your fingers and get that beautiful shot, you have to be thinking efficiently. And everything you just described, a traditional filmmaking workflow, I have more control over my environment. I use manual focus lenses, and I have the time to build it out for whatever the scene requires. That is great in an exclusive fantasy world, and I'm glad that you have that luxury, but there's a lot of people who cannot operate in that way. And so something like the Pixis, even though it's powerful, even though it's great, even though it's affordable, relatively so, it's still a deal breaker to say, I'm not going to do something that doesn't have IBIS, that doesn't have autofocus, that can't take a photo, etc. I address all this in the video, but I'm just repeating myself. The Pixis itself is pretty appealing for what it is now, but if it also had built-in NDs and a native V-mount, it would have sold a lot more. I'd happily sacrifice full frame for a Super 35 sensor if that's what it takes to get those things in a Pixis Pro. I prefer the Super 35 look anyways. Here's something we can agree on. The Pixis needed internal NDs. It was the one thing that was saving them. They added with the 6K Pro, I believe, the internal NDs. Very smart move, very popular. If everyone wants internal NDs. They might say they don't want it. Everyone wants internal NDs. They just don't know it yet. Once they're in all these cameras in the future, hopefully very soon, we're gonna be thinking, looking back, going like, what were we thinking? We didn't have internal NDs. How did we survive? That's the future we're headed towards, and it was a mistake for Blackmagic to not put it in the Pixis. Maybe their plan all along was to do a Pixis Pro with internal NDs. I don't know. I don't work at the company, but that's kind of a shame if they just didn't get it right off the bat. Maybe I think the opposite is a better choice. Release the Pro version first, and then come out with the basic version later that's more budget friendly for the people who really, want to count their dollars and cents. Someone says, this is such a weird take for the Pixis being on sale for a few days. It's not a price drop, but a sale. Semantics, I guess. There are also some Sony cameras that take both pictures and video on sale right now. There are sales on every brand of camera right now and at various times throughout the year. Also, the whole okay, so sales, yes. But why do they sell cameras? To sell more of them. And when it's this soon in the product life cycle, you realize, oh, they didn't sell enough at the beginning. I would say the same thing about Lumix and what they did with the G9 Mark II and with the GH7. Both, I don't think, really sold all that well right off the bat. So they had to lower the price because my criticism of the G9 Mark II when it came out, I have a whole video about it saying like, this is just too expensive for what it does. Same thing for the GH7 for that fact. It's just too expensive for what it does, what it offers. Bring the price down, more people will buy it. In fact, when I found the GH7 on sale, actually used, but regardless, cheaper, that's when I bought it because that's the value, the dollars is just, it's a balancing scale. What am I paying and what am I getting in return? And if these companies are asking too much and they're not offering enough, they're not going to sell the units they need to sell. So then they drop the price by doing a sale, and yeah, the price might go back up and then it comes back down and then it goes back up. It fluctuates, of course. This is normal. I don't know what we're arguing about at this point. Also, the whole rant. Ooh, well, welcome to the channel. I am known to do a rant or two. The whole rant about the box style and how you want a photo style body, that's what the pocket cameras are. Also, they're shaped like footballs. And people begged Blackmagic to make a box version for years, so they did. If you want a photo style body, that already exists. It doesn't from Blackmagic. It does from other companies, and that's why my favorites are some of the Lumix bodies, the S5 Mark II, the S9. We'll see what new is coming out from Lumix and Sony and Canon and Nikon and all the rest. The people who are begging, making a lot of noise for a box camera, here's my analogy. I think this is perfect, and you can disagree with me. Please leave a comment if you disagree with this. The box camera is the exact same thing as the people saying, release the Snyder cut. So let's flash back. Justice League, right? Goes through all this ordeal behind the scenes when it first comes out. They bring in Joss Whedon. The Justice League movie comes out. It's terrible. No one likes it. And everyone's screaming and screaming, release the Snyder cut, release the Snyder. We need the Snyder cut. That's the ultimate version of this movie. We need the Snyder cut. We need these box cameras. And they released the Snyder cut, and it's like better for some people, I guess, but it's still like not really good. That's what these box cameras are. It's this small, noisy fan base that really wants these box cameras. I hope they're buying them. But I just don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough to move the needle. I think there's far more people who are just sitting there quietly going like, oh, what's the new thing from Sony? What's the new thing from Canon? What's the new thing from Nikon? Oh, that's cool. Hey, what's Lumix doing? Oh, that's cool. S1 ARM Mark II. Cool. All right. Awesome. Sounds good. The people making the noise about the box cameras, yes, they're out there. They're eager to buy box cameras. Blackmagic has been making box style cameras for a while. And even Panasonic has box versions of their Lumix cameras. They never sell as many as the photography hybrid equivalent. They just don't. And to say the Pocket Cinema camera, if you told me that that's a photography camera, I'll laugh. Blackmagic, if you want to tell me the Pocket Cinema 6K whatever, shape it like a normal photography camera, and then we can have a discussion of like why it didn't sell. How's your autofocus, right? Where's the IBIS? These cameras are more than just the shape, certainly, but that helps. But it's also the features that are in it. Does it have what all the other ones have? Does it have IBIS? It matters for both photography and video. IBIS for both, right? You can do longer exposures for photography with good IBIS. You can also get steadier video with IBIS, something that matters for both. Autofocus matters for both. Eye tracking, face detection, human subject detection. Good for photography. Also great and super powerful for video when it works. So these things, these hybrid features that people want to make all this noise about, give me a box camera. Yes, but what features are in it as well? You're screaming for the Snyder cut, and ultimately it comes out and they would have been better off making a totally different movie. Because yes, is it better? Is it helpful? Sure, but also you can turn a hybrid into a box if you want. In fact, there's rigs and cages to do exactly that are becoming very popular. People are putting V-mount batteries on their tiny little hybrid cameras, making them bigger and boxier. But I don't want to start with a big box or a bulkier box. I want to start with something that fits comfortably in my hands and I can add on to it or take away as needed. Let's see. And video cameras don't take photos. That's the complaint, really? Yes, that is my complaint. Are you going to take screenshots? Are you going to, you can, but there's something very valuable about taking a photo as well on the same device, as we've talked. This is 22 minutes of random yapping, man. Yes, welcome to the channel. This is another one. Maybe this is the 22-minute mark on this video. I don't know. How long have I been talking? We're just going to keep going. Legend tells Lumix is coming. Better sell those Pixas fast. Yes, we've got the new Lumix cameras on the horizon, the S1 Mark II refresh. We'll see what those are. I don't actually know right now, but maybe by the time you're watching this, you know more than me. We'll see. It's either Lumix or DJI, but something is going to shake the market a little bit. I have my fingers crossed. I am hopeful. And I think what will do it, what will make those waves is the hybrid camera that is truly a hybrid, takes photo and video, and it has those built-in NDs. And plus all the other features. Don't lose the IBIS. Don't lose the autofocus. Give us 8K. Give us all the bells and whistles. Give us open gate, shutter angle, don't take things away. But we need to add more features. And the most meaningful, powerful feature, 32-bit float audio. Yes, great. Awesome. Not the most important. What else do people want? Another stop at dynamic range. Okay, fine. I'll take it. I won't be upset. But if you give me those internal NDs on a hybrid camera, mwah, chef's kiss, you just won the game. I've been saying it for over 10 years now. You can probably find the oldest video on my channel where I talk about, I think it was on like the GH5, maybe like, oh, would the GH5 have a bigger sensor and have internal NDs? I was asking for it before the GH5 came out. And the GH5 did sell really well. Very popular camera. Maybe too early for internal NDs then, but certainly now, come on guys, let's get them. Let's get them going. I don't know that they are selling that well. That's what I said. Any hunch on what they may be bringing to NAB? Perhaps a Pixis G2. I have no idea, no hunch, no insight. But I doubt a Pixis G2 anytime soon. But I I would be kind of surprised if we got a Pixis G2, actually. I would be very surprised. Box cameras are usually aimed towards cinematographers. It's in the name. Photography cameras with great video features are more for videographers and hybrid content creators. So this one confused me. I even asked, what do you mean it's in the name? Box doesn't spell cinema. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the follow-up comment so box cameras are usually aimed towards cinematographers. It's in the name. This was confusing to me. Box isn't in cinematographer. Cinematographer isn't in box. Maybe they're thinking outside the box. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was just a lapse in writing the comment. This person saying that great video features are more for videographers and hybrid content creators. I don't want to have to choose. I don't want to have to pick, and we don't have to. Thankfully, we don't. There was a time, yes, where I had to decide, am I going to bring my 5D Mark IV or am I going to bring my Ursa Mini? Yes, of course, there was a time where that was the decision. Before that, we had things like the GH2 where it's like, yeah, I could shoot good video, but it's 1080p. Maybe I'll rent a more expensive camera and do 4K. We'll do the Ursa Mini thing. Oh, hey, the GH5 has 4K now, but it's micro four thirds. So maybe I'll bring a full frame photography camera to take some pictures. But then I got 2 sets of lenses and it was a hassle. And there are people still living that life. And I'm telling you, you don't have to do that anymore. You can shoot with something. I don't care if it's Lumix, Sony, Nikon, Canon, etc. It does not matter. They all make great cameras that do both photo and video incredibly well. Is there a specific use case where you really need a box camera for a cinematographer? Yes, maybe 1% of the time. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's you. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about 99% of people who want to shoot video. And hey, they from time to time might want to take a photo. Or a photographer who gets asked, hey, can you record a quick reel, a TikTok real quick? And they're like, yeah, I can actually, because I'm shooting open gate and I can do multi-aspect production. I can shoot vertical and horizontal at the same time. Isn't that cool? Isn't that neat? This is the world we're living in, and people still have this mentality of traditional filmmaking, cinematography, whatever. And I'm telling you, you won't keep up. You're going to lose jobs. You're going to lose clients because you're not thinking like a modern content creator influencer would. And again, everyone is attracted to that because of the performance of the content. The authenticity of shooting on the smartphone is what wins on social. So if a client is coming to you saying, hey, I want something authentic, like what an influencer would do. Hey, could you shoot this on your smartphone? I'm not telling you to shoot on your smartphone. You can do that if you want. I'm telling you can have the best of both worlds. You can go make your movies, you can shoot documentaries, you can make YouTube content, you can make social clips. You can do it all from one camera, one device to do it all. One ring to rule them all, one camera to rule them all. And it's these hybrids. It's why it's tographer. It's not photographer, cinematographer. It's just all of it. It's both, best of both worlds. And if you want to keep clamoring for box cameras that don't sell well, that don't get the support, don't get the firmware updates, don't get, and then you have to bring a whole other camera to shoot photos anyway, you're doing yourself a disservice. I'm saying all this for your benefit, not my own. I'm already doing it. I've been doing it. I don't need to hear this. I know it. I'm telling you and everyone around you and who works, if you're thinking in this old school mindset, just wake up. I don't know what project you're working on. I can't see through the camera and have this clairvoyant, oh yes, of course, you can shoot with a box camera because you're special. I have no idea who you are or what you're doing, but I'm telling you, 99% of the time, you can do it with a hybrid. You can do it better, faster, cheaper, all those things. The efficiency, the cost savings, the quality, the reassurance, the client, like the on-demand delivery, whatever it is, the hybrids solve all those problems. And if you need your 30 minutes to set up your scene to get your shot, that might not work in the future. I'm just saying. Someone says, hi, tographer. This video is fantastic and so incredibly helpful. Hey, thank you. Positive comment. Thank you for taking the time to shed more light on this topic. This is what I'm talking about. Micro Four Thirds having a competitive edge for open gate because it's taller. Micro Four Thirds is a taller sensor than most full frame, which are 3x2. Unfortunately, I invested into the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and the Sony a7 IV. I wish I would have seen this video years ago when choosing camera systems. One hack that I use for my 16:9 cameras. Oh, this is kind of interesting. So I did read this already. This may be something that one of you out there will benefit from. It's an interesting concept that I sort of played around with in the back of my mind, but there's too many limitations, too many restrictions for me. But if it helps for you, then go for it. So you got a 16:9 camera. You have a camera that can't do open gate. Sad for you. But what you can do is you can shoot vertically and then use an avascope 1.5 anamorphic block at the end to get a somewhat square aspect ratio. So instead of, traditionally anamorphic stretches wide, if you mount it vertically, it would stretch it tall or stretch out the other way. Do you know what I'm saying? So 16:9, but like fat, like stretch vertically. So you could get sort of like a squarish aspect ratio. My Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K is speed boosted by a 0.64 speed booster with a 50 1.2 Canon FD shot vertical, but the avascope is rotated the correct way, so the flares and elongated bokeh is in the correct orientation. Interesting concept. I just rented the S1H and could not believe how wonderful shooting in open gate is. The 4x3 open gate on the G7 has a great value proposition as well, especially for anamorphic shooters. So this person doesn't really care about autofocus, which props to them. If they can make it work with the anamorphic adapter, then yes, any of those older cameras that don't have phase detect, that have the kind of bad Lumix autofocus in video, in photo, the autofocus is fine. In video, those older Lumix cameras don't have reliable autofocus. But if you're fine shooting manual focus, and that's also great, any of those older cameras could be a nice budget alternative to this interesting vertical anamorphic rig you've built, which is a fun concept. But I think, like I said, too many restrictions, too many limitations for me. But if that works for you and your projects, could be a cool look, perhaps, to get the best of both worlds, horizontal and vertical, same time. Someone says, very good advice for anyone and for anything. That's on me. Oh, like, practicing, gaining experience on your own. Very, very good advice, if I do say so myself. I sometimes use a single wide zoom lens for indoor product videos. Why? I need to record open gate at 60 frames in a tight space. 60 frames means crop in my case, so shooting with probably like a full frame Lumix, I'm assuming. Open gate for vertical delivery means I need more distance from subject for when the product is an ultra wide monitor, for instance. Oh gosh, that would be very challenging. Many wide angle lenses have very short focus distance. That's true. So then I use that single lens for all my shots. Yes, absolutely. So when you're picking your focal length, a lot of times it's dictated by what you're filming, but a lot of times you can also use it to your advantage based on your restrictions, your circumstances, and also like kind of the look and the feel you want to provide for these indoor product videos. That makes a whole lot of sense. Someone says, great setup, but how to have wide shot also without being silent, a good mix of wide shot in the mix. This is for the no editing podcast setup. It's actually kind of a challenge to switch on silence, but I think there's actually, if I played around with the settings enough, I could probably figure out some set of parameters, some set of circumstances to trigger that, which maybe is an update in Mix Effect as well, that app that pairs so nicely with the A10 Mini. Maybe it's something I could even request because, again, independently developed. It's one guy who made it easily. I could send him an email and say, hey, could you add this? But it might already be there, which, knowing that app and knowing his developing skills, I'm assuming it's probably there. So there's probably a way you can make that work. I haven't done it myself, so I can't make any promises, but there you go. It probably is a thing. I am a Micro Four Third, but just jumped headfirst with the S9 as my first full frame camera. Excited. I think you will notice the benefits immediately. The difference between Micro Four Thirds and full frame is quite shocking. You can, on the end result, the final product, you can kind of blur and mask the difference between the two. But when you're used to one and you switch to the other, it is quite a different, like, whoa. Just even putting a lens on and just seeing this massive sensor in there is, or vice versa. If you're going to Micro Four Thirds and you go, why is that sensor so small? There's a lot of those fun eye-opening moments making the jump. So I'm going to probably read one more and then we're going to call it a day because I certainly have been going for quite a while. I don't know exactly how long it's been, but I like to rant from time to time. Someone says, hi, why is nobody talking about open gate B-RAW 5.7K from the GH6 and 7 with Blackmagic Video Assist 12G if you want to shoot high quality up to 30 frames per second and not like every camera out with H.265 420. I myself was surprised it has this option. Even the S5 Mark II X can't output OpenGate RAW. And nobody is talking about it that even before the Blackmagic 6K full frame and the Pixis and the low budget Lumix with the GH6 was kind of the first to propose this option. Maybe the Fuji H2S can as well, not sure. I had some artifacts with the H265 OpenGate files. Nothing of the sort with BRAW. And by the way, you can shoot as well 4K 120 frames per second crop like on the Blackmagic camera, just it is 4K pixel to pixel like true RAW, and you must reach Ursa level to have 120 frames per second with BRAW. Another plus point for me, at least, base ISO is 2000 on the GH6. Did. All right, I made it through it. So yes, very cool. I actually didn't, I don't know that I knew this. I had thought about getting a Blackmagic Video Assist for those BRAW benefits with the GH6. But like I've said, you know, I operate in a workflow in an environment where I don't necessarily need BRAW. The internal files are usually good enough, and I'm not excited to take up more file space. Not that BRAW would necessarily do that, but it probably would compared to what I'm currently shooting. I'm not shooting the lowest quality. I'm not shooting the highest quality, usually like that middle of the range, just kind of the Goldilocks zone of codecs where it's good quality, but the file size is smaller. If you want to pixel peep, I'm sure there's little artifacts and little things, but you know, at the end of the day, if you want to really maximize your image quality, go shoot IMAX, right? If you have the budget and the resources to be Christopher Nolan, go be Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan, if you're watching this, keep shooting IMAX. Don't shoot hybrid. You don't have to shoot the way you want. That's fine. But for the rest of us, the 99% of us, usually good enough is good enough. And to keep those file sizes small, to make them play nicely with all machines, whether it's Mac, Windows, Linux, Premiere, Resolve, Final Cut, whatever you're editing on your phone, it doesn't matter. BRAW is great. It is awesome. It is arguably better, but it also comes with slight risk that it may not be always compatible one way or the other between all your systems. There's a lot of times in the past, not presently, but in the past, where a remote editor has worked on a project that was BRAW, and I get the file back, and they were on Windows and I was on Mac, and for whatever reason, some of the files, you know, couldn't resync properly. I'd get these like red and black bars. Maybe there's a workaround. Maybe there's a fix since then. Maybe there's some old version of Premiere, some old Mac OS. This is probably like 5 years ago now. But it's just one of those things that turned me off from it, where I'm like, I can't risk dealing with this headache every project just because an editor worked on it remotely. I need a bulletproof solution. And for me at that time, BRAW, it just wasn't in the cards. It wasn't the value that I needed it to be. So I opted to not try it and not deal with the video assist, not worry about recording files and dealing with it that way. I said, you know, the camera can record great stuff internally, so I'm going to stick with that. And it's been fine. If you have some awesome solution that works for BRAW, yeah, absolutely. Get a video assist, shoot BRAW, OpenGate RAW. Sounds really cool. One of the unique things I didn't realize the GH6 could do. I didn't know it could do RAW over HDMI OpenGate, which is a strange thing that if you've tried to record externally, that is one of the hard things. A lot of times it's not really OpenGate. It's like a pillar boxed OpenGate inside of a 16:9. So if it can do RAW and the video assist can handle it, that's a great use case for the GH6, GH7. But I can't say that's something I would recommend to everybody. Like, oh, we should all be doing this because it just makes so much sense. And I'd argue it really doesn't. The cameras can record internally, usually, and on the GH6, you can do ProRes internally to CF Express Type B. Same thing on the GH7. So I believe that's true. But again, I don't do that. I don't do ProRes. So I'm using just the H264 codecs probably, like the 100 megabit, 150, 200, you know, kind of the lightweight, medium range stuff, the Goldilocks stuff, as I already said. If you need BRAW over HDMI, OpenGate, cool option, but probably not something I would recommend because it just comes with more risk. And I don't want to recommend something that's going to cause you problems. It's going to cause you frustration. Hey, do this, jump through these 3 hoops and it's going to be awesome. may not always be the case. It might get you better image quality, but it might also give you a headache along the way. So those are solutions I try to avoid, especially when it comes to any type of team collaborative environment. There's a lot of, like we talked to this person who had the anamorphic solution for shooting vertical. That's a very individualized solution that works for them. But the moment you try and scale that across a team, start working with other people, it's really confusing. People are wondering, why are you doing anamorphic but vertical? What's the point of this? It's just hard to communicate some of that nuance when it's that specific. So this is another one of those scenarios that cool to know. And if that's helpful to anyone out there, I'm glad this person left the comment, but probably not something I personally would do myself just because it's not solving a problem I actively have. If I needed OpenGate RAW, cool. Glad to know it's an option, but I haven't been looking for that. And I don't think I'll be looking for that anytime soon, unless maybe I'll sleep on it and change my mind. But I don't think so.